So I started going to Hartnell Community College in Salinas, California, taking mostly general education classes to get my 56 transferable units. I took a few of the ballet classes there and some gym classes as well. I was interested in how the body works. It was a quiet 2 years for the most part. I started dating a guy, someone I had met in college. It was nice to be dating someone I didn't go to high school with. I was working full time as a manicurist at JCPenney's styling salon and making pretty good money. I was spending it all though on my boyfriend, and I had acquired a fake ID. So I started going to the bars when I was 19 and celebrated my 20th and 21st birthdays at the bars, getting my drinks bought for me by the bartenders. I started drinking a lot, but that still didn't stop me. Hangover or not, I was making every class and working every shift. I was also in search for how to pay for a 4 year college when I actually made it there. I think it was 1988 that I ran for Miss San Francisco in an attempt to win some scholarship money. I didn't win anything, but I got to perform one of my solos that I choreographed in high school. It was my second chair piece. It was to Mein Herr from the musical Cabaret. It was an exciting piece where I demonstrated my flexibility by doing a 6 o'clock split standing on a chair. I wish I had pictures of it. It was a real crowd pleaser. The costume I found was a gold lame knitted mini dress that had 6-inch fringe hanging diagonally from the right hip down to the left knee. I wore it over a black unitard and tan capezios. Oh yeah, and let's not forget the top hat. I choreographed it my senior year in high school and recreated it for this competition. It was during this beauty contest that I really started researching the subject of weight control. You see, I was always on the thick side. I was never happy about it. I always had such a different vision of myself as someone lean and slim. But how could I possibly be taken seriously in a beauty contest if I was overweight? As I mentioned, I was taking gym classes in Hartnell College and ballet and jazz classes. I didn't know why I couldn't get down to the weight I thought I should be. I was always pretty insecure about it. Every time I would visit my real dad, he would ask me, "Did you lose weight?" It became kind of annoying to be asked that by my dad every single time. I mean, I was doing a whole bunch of stuff, Dad, and all you seem to care about is my weight. I wasn't even really that big either. Nothing to worry about in terms of physical health. It was always about the fact that if you weren't skinny beanpole, there was something wrong with you. The gym class at college was going okay, and I liked learning all of the different workout equipment. I was going on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays up until the teacher of the class asked me out on a date. Not only that, but he seemed to think he needed to mention to me about how his ex accused him of rape, but that I shouldn't be afraid of that because he was a good guy. Let's just say I immediately stopped going and dropped the class. The guy that I started to go out with was pretty cute. He fit the whole tall, dark, and handsome profile. I caught him lying about a necklace that I bought for his birthday. I was so naive that I actually didn't immediately question his reasoning for that the 18-inch gold chain turned into a 25-inch gold chain because it stretched. I actually researched whether or not gold stretches. I'm laughing out loud right now as I write this because it is hilarious, but also sad. It was my first relationship that it seemed to be okay to stay overnight at his place, even though I still lived with my mom and my stepdad. Actually, it seemed as if they didn't want me to come home. But I really wanted to. Sometimes when I would try to leave, he would hold me in place as he lay on top of me, preventing me from being able to move any part of my body. It was absolutely terrifying for a split second, feeling as if I continued to try and leave, he would hurt me in some way. So I wouldn't even fight it or question it for 1 second. I would just go limp. But let me tell you something. He was the first guy that ever gave me an orgasm. Well, let's say he was the first guy that could actually keep it hard enough for long enough for me to experiment with how to give myself an orgasm, because that's really what it was. He wasn't at all interested in my orgasms, or honestly, I hadn't even had one in my life. I hadn't had much to compare it to and wasn't really told that that's what girls have sex for too. not just guys. It was more like if you have a boyfriend, you have sex with him. You shave your legs, you put on makeup, and you sit around and wait for him to pay attention to you, which means you have sex with him. That is how he shows you he loves you. So I didn't know what I was missing out on, and since he wasn't letting me leave, I guess I fully took advantage of that. So for up to 8 hours at a time, we were experimenting with sex. But when I say experimenting, I mean the 20 shades of the missionary position. I never watched any porn, so I didn't even know there was other positions. My first orgasm was kind of an accident. I didn't even know that that's what it was. I just knew that it was a new and interesting, different feeling, and I was like, that was a new and different feeling? Wait, was that an orgasm? And then after a little bit of thinking about it, I was like, oh my gosh, I think that was an orgasm. So you'd better believe I was very interested in finding out if that's what it was. After a while, this guy started being very mean to me, and even though I was very naive and wanted a boyfriend really bad, I had caught him in so many lies, it was obvious that I needed to end it with him. Not before I had had one other interesting experience that was also a first for me. One time, sitting in his kitchen with his sister, even though I was noticing the awful turn of the relationship was taking, that it was becoming more obvious with every day that passed by that they were saying and doing very rude and mean things to me, I had a laughing fit. I can't remember what it was that triggered it, but I started laughing uncontrollably and continued to laugh for 20-30 minutes straight. I even noticed that I couldn't stop. I tried to stop, but every time I tried, whatever it was that triggered it would go through my mind again, and I would start again laughing hysterically. This guy was confused and didn't know what to do. I think I had to leave because I couldn't stop. I think I laughed as I walked to my car, and I think I laughed the entire drive home. That was the last I remember about this guy. Thank God. Basically, I was just biding time until I got to go to a four-year college, having what I would say was a pretty close relationship with all of my sisters. I have 2 older sisters and 2 younger sisters. My youngest sister is the daughter of my real dad and my stepmom, so she didn't live with us. My other younger sister is the daughter of my mother and my stepdad. My mother had had her when I was 4 years old, and I remember loving her from the moment she was born. The 4 of us were my mom's daughters. My parents used to call me the last of the first bunch. I didn't like it very much, but there are certain things you cannot control, especially since it's true. I was the last of the first bunch. My sister Rayanne got married. It was her 3rd. Let me start that over. I'll tell you that my sister Rayanne is my hero. I have admired her and looked to her as an older sister my entire life. She and I have experienced some incredibly funny things together, like the time we were on the bus to visit my real dad in Los Angeles. I was about 7 and she was about 10 years old. We had just gotten back on the bus to eat our snacks and continued the ride south when we were in San Luis Obispo. Rayanne turns to me and says, "I bet I can flick this Dorito up your nose." She was holding a little speck of Dorito chip on her forefinger with her thumbnail under the chip ready to flick it. I just looked at her and said, "No, you can't." She flicked it and ping, it went straight up my nose. We laughed uncontrollably for the rest of the entire ride to LA. I love her sense of humor and her tenacity. I think she is way cooler than anyone gives her credit. She's a warrior and a fighter and is the most forgiving person on the face of the planet. I'm finishing up the last bit of my 56 transferable units. I had put in my application for California State University Long Beach. It was the only application I sent. I didn't need to apply to any other college because I didn't want to go to any other college. I wanted to go to California State University Long Beach, and for only one reason, to major in dance. A couple of my friends from high school dance company were already there. It didn't seem complete unless the first president of the NMCHS dance company was there as well. I was waiting patiently for my acceptance letter from the university, but honestly, it could have been a denial letter too. At least that's what everyone around me kept reminding me, that I might not be smart enough to go to college, since I was just a dancer. I think it got to a month before I was supposed to move before I actually received the acceptance letter. The stress was pretty horrible for me. Was I going to move to Long Beach and leave my parents' house finally at the age of 21 or not? One night, I was asleep in my bed. My little sister and I shared a room and a bed all of our lives. She was asleep in bed as well. I was lying on my back and facing the ceiling. I started dreaming of a sphere of daddy long legs, connected at the feet, descending down on top of me. I woke up from the dream screaming in fear, jumping up out of bed and avoiding the spiders making contact with me as they descended down. I ran around the bed, seeing the spiders drop onto the bed and scatter before I realized it was just a dream. I scared the living crap out of my sister, whom I woke up because of my screaming. I freaked out. It scared the crap out of me. It was the first time ever I had experienced anything like that. Only this other time I was awakened by a dream of my walking out into the front of a Mack truck barreling towards me. I woke up out of my sleep. But this was very different. Spiders? Daddy long legs, to be exact, creating a sphere by connecting with their feet of each other, descending down from a single thread of web. Then just a few weeks later, I had another one. Same scenario. I'm laying in my bed, my little sister's asleep next to me, I'm on my back facing up. There was a single file line of daddy long legs crossing over the top of me. They were so graceful, their legs moving in synchronicity. Their legs were doing some sort of dance while they walked. Just think of how a horse's legs move when they gallop, only it's daddy long legs and it's in slow motion. But it was still enough for me to freak out and wake up screaming, jumping out of bed and running around to the other side, looking back to notice that there's nothing there but my sister looking at me like I'm crazy. I ended up getting accepted and moving to Long Beach to attend California State University, Long Beach.